Finally, after all this time, I finally bought sticky tires. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today is one of those days where I really wish that I had AC in the wagon. It is about 90 degrees and I've been moving tires and I'm about to go get the RE71s mounted to the track set for the M2. That's what you see all around me. So I have to go down to Grove City, but that's not a big deal. I should be there soon. But then I have to make it back in time to drop the M2 back off at the shop today so I can get a loaner. The horn blew out on the M2. So my loaner is a G20 330 Xi. It's not bad. I've driven a couple of them before and I much prefer the 340, but this one is kind of nice because it gets great gas mileage. I think this is the second time I've had a 330 as a loaner. Usually I get the SUVs, which I kind of like more. Shout out to Mag BMW for always hooking me up with a decent loaner. Although look at this, these wheels, they say BMW individual in them, which means that BMW can probably charge like $8,000 per wheel. And it's got the Cinturato P7s, which is is a version of the tire that I just put onto the wagon. So that's pretty neat. I'm glad that they're still using those tires. It means that they're decent-ish tires for OEM. Finally, after all this time, I finally bought sticky tires. And they're mounted and they are thick. These are the Bridgestone Potenza RE71s. These, of course, are the fronts on top and the rears on the back. And I went with stock sizing, so it's a 265 on the back and a 245 on the front. So I think the added grip will be obviously very useful for autocross things and track things. I am amazed at how much thicker this, I guess, tread surface is from the same width Pilot Supersport. Those are very stretched on these wheels, and these are not very stretched on these wheels. It is almost square, and honestly, it looks really good and aggressive. So today, we are going to do something fairly simple. The crank fan on the wagon is operable, but I don't think that the clutch is actually working properly. Luckily, on my donor engine, I have a fan clutch that looks almost brand new, actually. So I'm going to go quickly get that off. Now, as I explained in a previous video, it's actually kind of difficult because the shaft that the fan is on can rotate. So you have to hold the water pump from spinning to get this loose. The other thing is that I already took the belt off of this engine, so effectively the water pump can spin completely independently, and it just spins the clutch. Luckily, my buddy Cyrus, whom you'll meet tomorrow when we work on his sunroof, has these tools. And what these two do is they hook onto the nuts on the water pump here, and then this is the spanner to actually loosen the nut on the water, not the water pump, on the fan clutch. So I'm going to do that real quick, and hopefully we'll be able to remove this. I'm sure it will be a bit of a pain, but so I got it loose, and it actually wasn't that big of a deal. But the important thing to remember is that the fan clutch is reverse threaded. So you would think that normally you would spin it to the right, this nut, to tighten it onto the water pump shaft, but actually you have to spin it to the right to loosen it. And they do that because as the engine spins to the right, or I guess facing the front of the engine, it spins clockwise, it will actually tighten this nut for the fan, so you don't ever run the risk of loosening the fan as you're driving the engine. It's pretty clever. But also, what's nice about this clutch is already just spinning this nut, it feels like it's a healthier clutch than the one that's currently on the wagon. So I'm hoping that I can change this and everything will be good. Unfortunately, the previous owner of this fan made a little access port by just breaking off one of the fins. So I'm going to have to swap the fan blades over. But that's not really a concern for me. I can do that pretty easily. It's just held on with, I think, 4 10mm screws. Well, maybe it's not a brand new fan clutch, but it certainly looks a lot better than the one that I have. Mine is filthy, and you can definitely tell that it's the original one. This one is in better shape, and it feels like there's a lot more resistance, so I have high hopes. I'm really excited to get Thomas's car back up and running. I think when we do that, we're going to go drive the Triple Nickel, which will be a lot of fun. That's a fun road on the eastern side of Ohio near Marietta. So that's going to be a lot of fun to get back up and running. And then playing with these wheels and tires is going to be a riot as well. The new RE71s. And this will be the last time where all of the lugs and these lines in the middle will be perfectly straight, so I'm told. So I just got the M2 back from the dealership and we're driving it now. And I gotta tell you, there are very few cars that I have ever driven that can consistently put a smile on my face like the M2. It's just an absolute riot. It's like the perfect amount of power, the perfect amount of sporty and fun and loud and shouty but quiet, and it's honestly just one of the perfect cars for me. I love this thing so much. One of the nicest things about having a parts car or a parts engine of sorts is that you always have duplicates of the parts that you need. So replacing this crank fan now on the wagon, this is the old one, and look at how easy it is to turn this. And the faster you go, the easier it gets, to the point where you can just kind of let it spin and kind of just flick it and it'll keep spinning. This one is the one off the donor, and it is unbelievably hard to spin, which means that it's good. This one is bad, but this one also looks terrible, and this one looks great. So I had to swap the fan quick, and now I should have a functioning crank fan. When I got the wagon, it didn't have a crank fan that functioned. To this day, it didn't have a crank fan that functioned. But now, that will all change. So I got the fan installed, and I know it works because it makes crank fan noises. Take a listen. You always know when a crank fan is working because it sounds like a bus.
Is this bus 41?
This is bus 41.
Oh. Where's the bus stop then?
In the river.
I'm late for school!
Unfortunately, no matter how much school he gets, he'll never learn. But yeah, it works, and it's cool. Literally. And now, the bus noises stop because the crank fan doesn't have to spin so fast because it is getting warm.
It's COVID, there's no school right now. Come on, you rascal.
What a little jokester he is. This is Cyrus, unfortunately. He is working on his sunroof on his 530 because it's a BMW and it has broken. So, what are you doing, Cyrus?
Well,
Yes? Yes? Careful, SpongeBob.
The tilt mechanism is not working, so I'm replacing that. And it's sucking because in a job like this you can't win. You can either have what you had before. It's not improving anything, it's just fixing, either making it worse or returning it to how it always should have been.
He doesn't agree with Trump. We're not going to win, and we're not just going to keep on winning. He's going to lose, and we're going to keep on losing.
My motto is keep BMW sucking. That's what I'm doing right now.
Cyrus also has an M5, which maybe I'll put a picture of, but it's kind of neat, I guess. It's just an M5, but you know, whatever.